All right, shalom, 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 and happy new moon to the nation of Israel. All praises to the Most High. You are live and direct once again with your Akazaki Yahoo. And as always, I'm giving all the praise, all the honor, and all the esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahweh, Bashem, HaMashiach, Wamalak, Yahweh Shai, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who are scattered to the four quarters of the earth. I say shalom, wa baruchim. That is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, under the Most High Power, under one covenant, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. All praises to Abba Yah. Hallelujah.
So be it. Hallelujah.
Yes, indeed. I'm joined this evening for this new moon celebration by my most esteemed Akilanaya. Shalom, Aki.
Hey, Shalom, Aki. Shalom, Yasharal. Happy new moon.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. It is another month. We are now in the third month of this new year. All praises to the Most High. Man, this time is like zipping by. Like
Indeed.
third month. Like, whoo.
Yeah, we're maybe 2 weeks out from Shavuot, huh?
Indeed. It's getting that time. All praises. Well, for this new moon celebration, we're going to do a video review. Got a couple of good videos that should pique your interest, and have you, not even surprised. But this first video is called How America is Rewriting So-Called Black History. It comes to us from Black Stories Untold. So we're going to dive right into this video and give praises to the Abba for brother sharing good information. Here we go.
What if I told you that everything you're taught about American history is a lie? That's right. A white, devil, damned lie. A lie that's hiding a secret so heinous, so explosive, that if it was revealed, it would change the very fabric of how Black history is understood in America. Yep, that's right. Everything we're taught in school, from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, has been rewritten in front of our very eyes. And what if I told you this erasure of Black history is still happening? Today, on Black Stories Untold, we're uncovering it all. When the Confederacy lost the Civil War in 1865, they lost everything. Southern wealth plummeted by 60%, and nearly 300,000 of their sons, fathers, and brothers were 6 feet underground. Their entire economic system, built on the backs of enslaved people, was destroyed. Their cities were burned, their economy shattered, their entire way of life gone. But while most of the South was trying to rebuild, one man was busy rewriting. His name was Edward Pollard, editor of the Richmond Examiner, and he was about to write the book that would change American history forever. The Lost Cause, a new Southern history of the War of the Confederates. This book essentially became the propaganda's blueprint. You see, Pollard understood something crucial. They say history is written by the winners. But Pollard knew that if you control how history is written, you control the narrative. And in those pages, he laid out exactly how to do it. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. First, rewrite the cause of the war. While Confederate Vice President Alexander Stephens had proudly declared in 1861 that their new government was founded on the great truth that the Negro is not equal to the white man, Pollard and his supporters pushed a different story. According to them, the South fought for states' rights. They were noble defenders of their homeland against Northern aggression. And enslavement? Well, apparently, that was actually good. But Pollard didn't stop there. He and his fellow Lost Cause writers turned Confederate generals into saints. And none more so than Robert E. Lee, the most successful military commander of the Confederate Army. Lee became more than just a general. They transformed him into a Christ-like figure, the ultimate Christian soldier who they claimed only reluctantly took up arms to defend his state of Virginia. After his death in 1870, They elevated him to almost godlike status, even calling him the Second Washington. Never mind that he led an army against the very nation Washington helped create. Confederate soldiers weren't fighting for enslavement. They were heroic warriors defending their homes against invaders. And the South's defeat? That wasn't because their cause was wrong. No, it was simply because the North had more men, more guns, more resources. They were just overwhelmed. It sounds absurd, right? That the losing side of a war could just rewrite history? But here's the thing. Pollard's book became the very foundation for a systemic campaign to reshape American memory. A campaign so effective that its lies are still repeated today. Because just 1 year after Pollard published his book, something started happening across the South that was truly shocking. While Confederate men were busy writing their version of history, Southern women were about to turn that story into reality. It started innocently enough. In the aftermath of war, women across the South formed memorial associations to collect the bodies of Confederate soldiers and give them proper burials. But these weren't just grieving mothers and widows. They were seeds of something much more powerful. In 1869, Confederate veterans, including Braxton Bragg and Jubal Early, formed the Southern Historical Society, and their mission was to defend every aspect of the Confederate cause through published papers and speeches. But it was what happened next that would change American history forever. In 1894, a group called the United Daughters of the Confederacy was born. These women had the most insidious plan to control what children were learning at the time. That's right. We all know education has perhaps the biggest impact on kids when they're young. And if you teach your next generation that the Confederacy were fighting a noble cause, what do you have? You have another generation of bigoted, hateful, and ignorant people, exactly the sort of people who would perpetuate an obvious lie. Within just a few years, the UDC had grown to 100,000 members strong. They had chapters beyond the South and across the entire country, and they wielded their power with surgical precision. At the heart of this operation was Mildred Rutherford, an educator and author who created something called a measuring rod for textbooks, a manual that would determine what version of history American children would learn. The system was brutally effective. Any book that didn't match their version of history was marked with unjust to the South and removed from the library shelves. Any textbook that mentioned the horrors of enslavement or the true causes of the Civil War were banned from classrooms. But they didn't stop there. They created the Children of the Confederacy, where young Southerners were required to memorize the Confederate Catechism, a call and response system that drilled their twisted version of history into children's minds. Kids as young as 6 were taught to recite truths about the Confederacy, competing for rewards as they absorbed these lies. They staged elaborate ceremonies where school children were arranged into living glass at monument unveilings. And those Confederate monuments you see in town squares across America, the ones causing so much controversy today, yeah, the UDC put those there. They didn't just build statues, they placed them strategically in front of courthouses, in town squares, anywhere they could cement their version of history in stone. But reshaping Confederate memory was just the beginning. These women had an even darker, more disturbing goal. You see, after the Civil War ended in 1865, America entered a period called Reconstruction. For the first time, the federal government tried to make good on the promise of freedom, passing the first Civil Rights Acts in American history and constitutional amendments that guaranteed Black citizenship and voting rights. Black Americans seized this opportunity. They were voting, getting elected to Congress, building schools and businesses, and creating their own newspapers. They were living proof that the lost cause narrative was a lie. So the architects of the lost cause did something ingenious. They made sure Black voices would never reach the history books. Remember those textbook guidelines created by Mildred Rutherford and the UDC? They didn't just promote Confederate heroes. They systematically removed any mention of Black achievement. The Freedmen's Bureau, Black congressmen, the Civil Rights Acts, all erased. But they went even further. As Reconstruction was giving Black Americans unprecedented freedom, a group of white Southerners emerged with a mission to take it all away. They called themselves the Redeemer Democrats. Democrats who wanted to redeem the South by returning it to white. These redeemers couldn't be as obvious as they were during Confederate days. No more riding around in masks intimidating Black voters. Instead, they had to be subtle. So they created a two-pronged attack. On the ground, radical groups like the Red Shirts and White League used violence to drive black voters away from the polls. Suddenly, owning people as property wasn't a brutal system anymore. It was reimagined as a teaching experience where enslaved people became more civilized. Some lost cause writers even claimed that enslaved people had better lives than British working class people. And here's the worst part. By the time Jim Crow laws were firmly in place, there was no one left in power to challenge those lies. When that wasn't enough, they created new stereotypes, straight from lost cause propaganda, meant to portray Black Americans as unprepared for freedom. These were weapons designed to justify segregation and the complete reversal of everything Black Americans had achieved during Reconstruction. But here's where this story takes an even darker turn. You see, the South was about to pull off something unprecedented. They were going to make the North embrace their lies. From the White House to Hollywood, from college classrooms to children's movies, the lost cause was about to become America's official story. But the most terrifying part was yet to come. You'd think America would reject the propaganda of traitors who nearly destroyed the Union. But not only did the North welcome the lost cause with open arms, they taught it in their schools, screened it in their theaters, and ultimately helped turn Confederate mythology into American history. And here's the most disturbing part. This was endorsed by presidents, taught by Ivy League professors, and celebrated in blockbuster films that Americans still watch today. So how does the winning side of a war end up adopting the sore loser's version of history? The answer starts with a funeral. In 1885, Ulysses S. Grant, the Union general who had defeated the Confederacy, was being laid to rest. Among his pallbearers were former Confederate generals Joseph E. Johnston and Simon Bolivar Buckner. Let that sink in. The man who crushed the rebellion was being carried to his grave by the very men who fought to preserve enslavement. While it was a funeral on the surface, it was actually America announcing that white reconciliation mattered more than historical truth. By the 1890s, Northern public opinion had shifted dramatically. Americans had grown disillusioned with Reconstruction and were eager to move on from the divisiveness of the Civil War. In 1898, President William McKinley made this reconciliation official. When America declared war on Spain, he deliberately appointed former Confederate General Joseph Wheeler to lead the cavalry division. As one historian put it, President McKinley purposely chose ex-Confederate General Joe Wheeler as head of the cavalry division, thereby symbolically reunifying the nation through an ex-Confederate. But this reconciliation came with a terrible cost. To welcome the South back into the national fold, the North had to accept the South's version of history. And that meant embracing the lost cause, a lie that the war was fought over states' rights, not what it was really about, and keeping Black people in an inferior socio-economic class. But here's what you might not realize. This wasn't just about healing wounds. There was something much more insidious happening behind the scenes. Because for propaganda to become history, you need the stamp of academic approval. And that's exactly what the lost cause got. The American history profession was still in its infancy. The first history PhD in America was only awarded in 1882, and the American Historical Association formed in 1884. These early historians saw themselves as nation builders, writing history backwards as if the United States had always been destined to exist. And the lost cause got wrapped up in all of that. At Columbia University, Professor William Archibald Dunning created what became known as the Dunning School of Reconstruction History. These historians portrayed Reconstruction as a terrible mistake where vengeful Republicans punished the South and incompetent Black politicians corrupted state governments. The Dunning School became a powerful tool for white. Dunning himself was a redeemer whose work gave intellectual legitimacy to Jim Crow laws and the disenfranchisement of Black voters. Meanwhile, Frederick Jackson Turner, one of the most influential historians of his time, was actively minimizing enslavement's importance. In 1893, Turner wrote, "When American history comes to be rightly viewed, it will be seen that the enslavement question is an incident in the period from the end of the first half of the present century to the close of the Civil War." Turner told Americans, don't focus on the enslavement. Look west. The frontier, not the plantation, was what made America exceptional. But perhaps no academic did more damage than Woodrow Wilson. Before becoming president, Wilson was a historian who legitimized the lost cause through his scholarly work. He believed the white knights had saved the South from what he called Black domination. Think about that for a second. A future president of the United States writing that an evil organization saved America. When Wilson won the presidency in 1913, he brought these views into the White House, resegregating the federal government and purging black employees from positions they had held for decades. But Wilson's most damaging contribution to the lost cause was yet to come, and it would change American culture forever. In 1915, a friend of President Wilson, named Thomas Dixon, wrote a novel which was adapted into a film by D.W. Griffith, The Birth of a Nation. It was America's first true blockbuster, a technical marvel that revolutionized filmmaking. It was also one of the most evil and discriminatory films ever made. The film portrayed the white knights as heroes who saved white Southern women from savage black men, who were played by white actors in blackface. Its climactic scene showed triumphant white knights riding to restore civilization to the South. And where was this piece of Confederate propaganda first screened? The place where it can do maximum damage, the White House. The film was a sensation, seen by millions of Americans. And as a direct result, the White Knights, which had been largely inactive since the 1870s, experienced a massive revival. Some of its strongest chapters weren't even in the South, but in places like Indiana. That's right. A single film inspired millions of Americans to join a radical and evil organization. That's the power of propaganda when it has the government's seal of approval. Hollywood was just getting started. In 1939, Gone with the Wind hit theaters. Another blockbuster that romanticized the antebellum South and portrayed enslavement as a benign institution where happy enslaved people were loyal to their kind masters. The film portrayed Reconstruction as a time when the South was ravaged, ignoring the civil rights progress and democratic reforms of the era. Then, in 1946, Disney released Song of the South, a song that describes the wonderful relationship between master and enslaved. Even in the Western genre, perhaps America's most iconic film tradition served to minimize enslavement by focusing on the frontier instead of the plantation, exactly as Frederick Jackson Turner had advocated. In The Searchers, widely considered one of the greatest Westerns ever made, John Wayne's character proudly declares,
"A man's only good for one oath at a time. I took mine to the Confederate States of America."
Just like that, Confederate soldiers weren't traitors. They were honorable men who simply had competing loyalties. These films are still being watched and celebrated today. And that leads to an uncomfortable question. What other propaganda might we still be consuming without realizing it? Because by the early 20th century, the lost cause needed to evolve to continue spreading. As Confederate soldiers aged and died, their children formed offshoots like the Sons of Confederate Veterans and the United Daughters of the Confederacy. In 1893, the Confederate Veteran magazine began publication, eventually reaching hundreds of thousands of readers until it ceased publication in 1932. This magazine became the official mouthpiece of the Lost Cause movement. What emerged from these efforts was a sanitized version of the Lost Cause that emphasized heritage rather than hatred. According to this new narrative, Confederate symbols were simply part of Southern identity, a way to honor ancestors who fought for what they believed in. This transformation was remarkably effective. What started with Mississippi's state flag in 1894, a clear symbol of Jim Crow, eventually became just part of Southern culture. By the 1970s, you had the Dukes of Hazzard on primetime television, with a car named General Lee sporting the Confederate flag while playing Dixie on its horn. And millions of Americans didn't bat an eye, because by then it had been successfully rebranded as Heritage Not Hate. This watered-down mythology allowed Confederate symbols to spread far beyond the South. By the mid-20th century, the Confederate flag appeared everywhere from college dorm rooms to rock concerts. And by the 1930s, the Lost Cause became officially American history. Generations of Americans learned that the Civil War was fought over states' rights, and the Reconstruction was a terrible mistake driven by vengeful Northerners. Meanwhile, they learned almost nothing about the 200,000 black soldiers who fought for the Union, black politicians elected during the Reconstruction, and the systematic campaign of terror that overthrew Reconstruction governments. But the most disturbing part in all of this is that the Lost Cause didn't fade out in the 1930s. It's still with us today. Look around you. That Confederate monument in your town square, the textbooks being debated in school board meetings today, and the political fights over how American history is being taught in schools. They're the front lines in a 150-year propaganda campaign that's still shaping America right now. And what makes it truly dangerous is that most Americans don't even realize they've been influenced by it. In 2015, a high school student in Texas noticed something strange in her textbook. The section on enslavement described enslaved Africans as workers who came to America seeking jobs. There was no mention of kidnapping, chains, or human ownership. When she posted a photo of the textbook page online, it went viral. The publisher, McGraw-Hill, one of the largest educational publishers in the world, eventually apologized and promised to fix the language in future editions. As recently as 2010, the Texas Board of Education, which influences textbook content nationwide, approved standards that minimized enslavement's role in causing the Civil War and required teaching the positive aspects of American enslavement. A 2018 survey by the Southern Poverty Law Center found that only 8% of high school seniors could identify enslavement as the central cause of the Civil War. 2/3 didn't know that it took a constitutional amendment to end enslavement. When students don't understand, they can't understand the racial inequalities that persist today. That's not education, that's indoctrination. So what does it say about America that we have more monuments to traitors who fought to preserve enslavement than to the enslaved people themselves? In 2019, the New York Times launched the 1619 Project, an initiative aimed at reframing American history by placing the consequences of enslavement and the contributions of Black Americans at the center of the national narrative. The backlash was immediate and fierce. Politicians condemned it as propaganda and introduced bills to ban it from schools. Some historians criticized specific claims, while others defended the project's core premise. The same pattern emerges in debates over critical race theory, which is a legal framework that examines how racism is embedded in institutions and systems rather than just individual prejudice. Despite being primarily taught in law schools, not K-12 classrooms, critical race theory has become a catch-all boogeyman for any discussion of systemic discrimination in American history. We're still fighting that same battle that began in 1866, between those who want to confront America's history of racial injustice honestly and those who prefer comfortable myths. The Lost Cause taught Americans that history could be whatever they wanted it to be, that uncomfortable truths could be buried beneath comfortable myths, that reconciliation was more important than justice. And that lesson has been learned all too well. But propaganda, no matter how powerful, cannot survive when confronted with the truth. That's why understanding the lost cause means recognizing how historical narratives shape our present and future. When we understand how the lost cause rewrote history, we can see more clearly how similar propaganda campaigns operate today. We can recognize when politicians use coded language to appeal to racial resentments, when media outlets sanitize uncomfortable truths, when textbooks gloss over America's darker chapters. We can become more critical consumers of history. The truth is that America has always been both a land of extraordinary promise and profound contradiction. A nation founded on the principle that all men are created equal while enslaving millions of human beings. A country capable of remarkable progress and horrific injustice.
Well, surprise, surprise, and surprise. Uh, you know as not surprising as that video is, as not surprising as those statements that were made in that video were. Uh, the outrage is certainly not absent, and
Con,
understanding these things. These are all things we've seen, we've heard before, and yet, uh, it never fails to just get right under your skin like a splinter that you can have a hard time reaching and getting out. Uh, that's how I feel about these historical uh, contexts and these historical narratives, especially that they went through great lengths to push these lies, and then there are people on the other side who surprise welcome them and their lives
con,
for for the sake of nationhood, whatever you want to call it. Uh, but like I said, you can't be surprised at any of this. All of it is not surprising, but yet it's very infuriating. And I remember that story about the textbook and the mother taking immediate action, and I didn't realize that the resolution would be they would update future editions. They should have pulled that mess off the shelf or out of
Mhm.
those that they sent them to and corrected it right then and there. Talking about future editions, that's doing no good for right here and now when you got this textbook in the hands of children, teaching them that black people came here looking for jobs. Boy, that is
It's despicable.
it is. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrendous, and that thought is so outrageous that somebody approved that. Some editor let that go off of their desk with an approval, and they thought it would be just fine. Nobody's gonna say anything until somebody said something, and then people were outraged, and now they said they the last thing I'll say is we'll address future editions, and I hope they took that to court because that was ridiculous. But I'm gonna yield there because I can keep on and on about this thing, and my blood pressure is steady going up. So go ahead, Akeem.
I wasn't surprised either by what we heard. You know, for some people out there, there's no hope. Upon the judgment that is coming. For others, there is. Not saying that there's a salvation. Because salvation is to the Yahudim. Well, to Yasharal rather.
Indeed.
But I was thinking, just thinking about HaTorah, and I've gotten some edification on some things, but just looking at if we could go there. Well, we don't even have to go there. I can get there real quick. But this is the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 16, and all I need is verses 1 through 4, and it reads.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up. One second. It says
Okay,
16.
Con. Yeah, 16 and 1 through 4 is.
Okay. Con. Let me get it on the screen here. Yeah, we need some edification right now because that. Ooh. All right, go ahead.
Con. Now it says, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the assemblies of Galatia, even so do you. So remembering where Paul is at in this time, he's in Corinth. Corinth is a Greek city in between Sparta and Athens, and so and we know the work that Shaul put in, but we read here that he's already given order, not not asking. Shaul is saying that he has given order to Galatia, even so do you.
Right.
Verse 2, upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as the Most High hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. And when I come, whomsoever you shall approve by your letters, them will I send to bring your liberty unto Jerusalem. And if it be meet that I go also, they shall go with me. So this first of the week idea that you all have is not what you think it is. Paul has not changed the Sabbath. Paul is giving you instructions to become tributaries to the saints at Jerusalem. And why do I use those words, Kenaniah? Where are you getting this from? You all really have Paul messed up, man. Paul was a Torah keeper, right? But yeah, Paul got that from the Torah. Going to Deuteronomy chapter 20.
Yeah, I got you.
And this is rules for warfare. And I would sound naive to say that we're not at war.
No doubt.
However, we will keep this Torah to the best of our capability. How, wherever we're at, it's prophecy that this heritage will return to us. But what was Paul doing? What was Paul doing? It says, when you shall besiege a city, verse is Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 19. When you shall besiege a city a long time and making war against it. Oh, Slaki, no, I want beginning at verse 11, I think. Oh no, Slaki, verse 10.
Verse 10. Okay, got it for you. All right, go ahead.
It says, when you come nigh unto a city to fight against it, then proclaim shalom unto it. So Paul, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, they're spiritual. Paul is fighting a war for his king and Messiah, Mashiach. He's in Greeks, right? But he's remembering the law. He says, and it continues, it says, and it shall be, if they make you an answer of peace and to open unto you, then it shall be that all the people that is found therein shall be tributaries unto you, and they shall serve you. And if it will make no peace with you, but will make war against you, then you shall besiege it. And when Yahweh your power have delivered it into your hands, you shall smite every male thereof with the edge of the sword. But the women and the little ones and the cattle and all that is in the city, even all the spoil thereof, shall you take unto yourself. And you shall eat the spoil of your enemies, which Yahweh your power have given you. So this is the completion of the so-called old and new. And there's really nothing new to this, except for our Mashiach, who was even there in these days as well with his people. It's foolish of me to think that we're not at war, but Torah tells me to offer peace. I'm consider, these messages coming forth a time for you to understand the wickedness that your people have done to my people. All right.
Indeed.
The scriptures say, you bless Israel and the Most High will bless you. You curse Israel and the Most High is going to curse you. If you believe what you read, you need to act like you do. I'll yield there, Aki. I mean, there's more to it, but I'll yield there.
All praises to the Most High. Kind, yeah. Like I said, this is not surprising. However, it's certainly no less infuriating. Though it doesn't though it does not catch you off guard, though it does not, shock you. It's nonetheless any less appalling. But this is new moon. This is a happy occasion. Most High have allowed us to see a new month.
Call Halal Yahweh by Hashem HaMashiach wa Malak Yahweh Shah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Yes, indeed. So we did that video, and man, yeah, got your skin crawling a little bit. But we're gonna end on this video. This is a video I found from AIBIBLEMOVIES. It's the book of Ecclesiastes, the full movie, complete biblical story. And I believe these brothers are in the truth as well. So all praises to the Most High. Brothers still waking up, not only waking up, but doing work, doing good work. So let's check it out. And Most High be the glory and the esteem and all the praise. Hallelujah.
The teacher's search for meaning. These are the words of the teacher, King David's son, who ruled in Jerusalem.
Everything is meaningless,
says the teacher.
completely meaningless. What do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. The sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. The wind blows south and then turns north. Around and around it goes, blowing in circles. Rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the water returns again to the rivers and flows out again to the sea. And everything is wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content. History merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Sometimes people say, here is something new. But actually, it is old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past, and in future generations, no one will remember what we are doing now. I, the teacher, was king of Israel, and I lived in Jerusalem. I devoted myself to search for understanding and to explore by wisdom everything being done under heaven. I soon discovered that God has dealt a tragic existence to the human race. I observed everything going on under the sun, and really, it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. What is wrong cannot be made right. What is missing cannot be recovered. I said to myself, look, I am wiser than any of the kings who ruled in Jerusalem before me. I have greater wisdom and knowledge than any of them. So I set out to learn everything from wisdom to madness and folly. But I learned firsthand that pursuing all this is like chasing the wind. The greater my wisdom, the greater my grief. To increase knowledge only increases sorrow. I said to myself, come on, let's try pleasure. Let's look for the good things in life. But I found that this too was meaningless. So I said, laughter is silly. What good does it do to seek pleasure? After much thought, I decided to cheer myself with wine. And while still seeking wisdom, I clutched at foolishness. In this way, I tried to experience the only happiness most people find during their brief life in this world. I also tried to find meaning by building huge homes for myself and by planting beautiful vineyards. I made gardens and parks, filling them with all kinds of fruit trees. I built reservoirs to collect the water to irrigate my many flourishing groves. I bought slaves, both men and women, and others were born into my household. I also owned large herds and flocks, more than any of the kings who had lived in Jerusalem before me. I collected great sums of silver and gold, the treasure of many kings and provinces. I hired wonderful singers, both men and women, and had many beautiful concubines. I had everything a man could desire, so I became greater than all who had lived in Jerusalem before me, and my wisdom never failed me. Anything I wanted, I would take. I denied myself no pleasure. I even found great pleasure in hard work, a reward for all my labors. But as I looked at everything I had worked so hard to accomplish, it was all so meaningless, like chasing the wind. There was nothing really worthwhile anywhere. So I decided to compare wisdom with foolishness and madness. But who can do this better than I, the king? I thought, wisdom is better than foolishness, just as light is better than darkness. For the wise can see where they are going, but fools walk in the dark. Yet I saw that the wise and the foolish share the same fate. Both will die. So I said to myself, since I will end up the same as the fool, what's the value of all my wisdom? This is all so meaningless. For the wise and the foolish both die. The wise will not be remembered any longer than the fool. In the days to come, both will be forgotten. So I came to hate life because everything done here under the sun is so troubling. Everything is meaningless, like chasing the wind. I came to hate all my hard work here on earth, for I must leave to others everything I have earned. And who can tell whether my successors will be wise or foolish? Yet they will control everything I have gained by my skill and hard work under the sun. How meaningless. So I gave up in despair, questioning the value of all my hard work in this world. Some people work wisely with knowledge and skill, then must leave the fruit of their efforts to someone who hasn't worked for it. This too is meaningless, a great tragedy. So what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. It is all meaningless. So I decided there is nothing better than to enjoy food and drink, and to find satisfaction in work. Then I realized that these pleasures are from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from him? God gives wisdom, knowledge, and joy to those who please him. But if a sinner becomes wealthy, God takes the wealth away and gives it to those who please him. This too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build up, a time to cry and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather stones, a time to embrace and a time to turn away, a time to search and a time to quit searching, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be quiet and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do people really get for all their hard work? I have seen the burden God has placed on us all. Yet God has made everything beautiful for its own time. He has planted eternity in the human heart. But even so, people cannot see the whole scope of God's work from beginning to end. So I concluded there is nothing better than to be happy and enjoy ourselves as long as we can. And people should eat and drink and enjoy the fruits of their labor, for these are gifts from God. And I know that whatever God does is final. Nothing can be added to it or taken from it. God's purpose is that people should fear him. What is happening now has happened before, and what will happen in the future has happened before, because God makes the same things happen over and over again. I also noticed that under the sun, there is evil in the courtroom. Yes, even the courts of law are corrupt. I said to myself, in due season, God will judge everyone, both good and bad, for all their deeds. I also thought about the human condition, how God proves to people that they are like animals. For people and animals share the same fate. Both breathe and both must die. So people have no real advantage over the animals. How meaningless. Both go to the same place. They came from dust and they return to dust. For who can prove that the human spirit goes up and the spirit of animals goes down into the earth? So I saw that there is nothing better for people than to be happy in their work. That is why we are here. No one will bring us back from death to enjoy life after we die. Again, I observe all the oppression that takes place under the sun. I saw the tears of the oppressed, with no one to comfort them. The oppressors have great power, and their victims are helpless. So I concluded that the dead are better off than the living. But most fortunate of all are those who are not yet born, for they have not seen all the evil that is done under the sun. Then I observed that most people are motivated to success because they envy their neighbors. But this too is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Fools fold their idle hands, leading them to ruin. And yet, better to have one handful with quietness than two handfuls with hard work and chasing the wind. I observed yet another example of something meaningless under the sun. This is the case of a man who is all alone, without a child or a brother, yet who works hard to gain as much wealth as he can. But then he asks himself, who am I working for? Why am I giving up so much pleasure now? It is all so meaningless and depressing. Two people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Likewise, two people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated, but two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, for a triple braided cord is not easily broken. It is better to be a poor but wise youth than an old and foolish king who refuses all advice. Such a youth could rise from poverty and succeed. He might even become king, though he has been in prison. But then everyone rushes to the side of yet another youth who replaces him. Endless crowds stand around him. But then another generation grows up and rejects him too. So it is all meaningless, like chasing the wind. As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. It is evil to make mindless offerings to God. Don't make rash promises, and don't be hasty in bringing matters before God. After all, God is in heaven, and you are here on earth. So let your words be few. Too much activity gives you restless dreams. Too many words make you a fool. When you make a promise to God, don't delay in following through, for God takes no pleasure in fools. Keep all the promises you make to him. It is better to say nothing than to make a promise and not keep it. Don't let your mouth make you sin, and don't defend yourself by telling the temple messenger that the promise you made was a mistake. That would make God angry, and he might wipe out everything you have achieved. Talk is cheap, like daydreams and other useless activities. Fear God instead. Don't be surprised if you see a poor person being oppressed by the powerful, and if justice is being miscarried throughout the land. For every official is under orders from higher up, and matters of justice get lost in red tape and bureaucracy. Even the king milks the land for his own profit. Those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. There is another serious problem I have seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. Money is put into risky investments that turn sour, and everything is lost. In the end, there is nothing left to pass on to one's children. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty-handed as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us, and this too is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their hard work is for nothing, like working for the wind. Throughout their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. Even so, I have noticed one thing at least that is good. It is good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and the good health to enjoy it. To enjoy your work and accept your lot in life, this is indeed a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life that they take no time to brood over the past. There is another serious tragedy I have seen under the sun, and it weighs heavily on humanity. God gives some people great wealth and honor and everything they could ever want, but then he doesn't give them the chance to enjoy these things. They die, and someone else, even a stranger, ends up enjoying their wealth. This is meaningless, a sickening tragedy. A man might have 100 children and live to be very old, but if he finds no satisfaction in life and doesn't even get a decent burial, it would have been better for him to be born dead. His birth would have been meaningless, and he would have ended in darkness. He wouldn't even have had a name, and he would never have seen the sun or known of its existence. Yet he would have had more peace than in growing up to be an unhappy man. He might live 1,000 years twice over, but still not find contentment. And since he must die like everyone else, well, what's the use? All people spend their lives scratching for food, but they never seem to have enough. So are wise people really better off than fools? Do poor people gain anything by being wise and knowing how to act in front of others? Enjoy what you have rather than desiring what you don't have. Just dreaming about nice things is meaningless, like chasing the wind. Everything has already been decided. It was known long ago what each person would be. So there's no use arguing with God about your destiny. The more words you speak, the less they mean. So what good are they? In the few days of our meaningless lives, who knows how our days can best be spent? Our lives are like a shadow. Who can tell what will happen on this earth after we are gone? A good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume, and the day you die is better than the day you are born. Better to spend your time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. Sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. A wise person thinks a lot about death, while a fool thinks only about having a good time. Better to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. A fool's laughter is quickly gone, like thorns crackling in a fire. This also is meaningless. Extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. Control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are a benefit as you go through life. Wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Accept the way God does things, for who can straighten what he has made crooked? Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, realize that both come from God. Remember that nothing is certain in this life. I have seen everything in this meaningless life, including the death of good young people and the long life of wicked people. So don't be too good or too wise. Why destroy yourself? On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes. One wise person is stronger than 10 leading citizens of a town. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. Don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear your servant curse you, for you know how often you yourself have cursed others. I have always tried my best to let wisdom guide my thoughts and actions. I said to myself, I am determined to be wise. But it didn't work. Wisdom is always distant and difficult to find. I searched everywhere, determined to find wisdom and to understand the reason for things. I was determined to prove to myself that wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. I discovered that a seductive woman is a trap more bitter than death. Her passion is a snare, and her soft hands will bind you. Those who please God will escape her, but sinners will be caught in her snare. This is my conclusion. How wonderful to be wise, to analyze and interpret things. Wisdom lights up a person's face, softening its harshness. Obey the king since you vowed to God that you would. Don't try to avoid doing your duty, and don't stand with those who plot evil, for the king can do whatever he wants. His command is backed by great power. No one can resist or question it. Those who obey him will not be punished. Those who are wise will find a time and a way to do what is right, for there is a time and a way for everything, even when a person is in trouble. Indeed, how can people avoid what they don't know is going to happen? None of us can hold back our spirit from departing. None of us has the power to prevent the day of our death. There is no escaping that obligation, that dark battle. And in the face of death, wickedness will certainly not rescue the wicked. I have thought deeply about all that goes on here under the sun, where people have the power to hurt each other. I have seen wicked people buried with honor, yet they were the very ones who frequented the temple and are now praised in the same city where they committed their crimes. This too is meaningless. When a crime is not punished quickly, people feel it is safe to do wrong. But even though a person sins 100 times and still lives a long time, I know that those who fear God will be better off. The wicked will not prosper, for they do not fear God. Their days will never grow long like the evening shadows. And this is not all that is meaningless in our world. In this life, good people are often treated as though they were wicked, and wicked people are often treated as though they were good. This is so meaningless. So I recommend having fun, because there is nothing better for people in this world than to eat, drink, and enjoy life. That way, they will experience some happiness along with all the hard work God gives them under the sun. In my search for wisdom and in my observation of people's burdens here on earth, I discovered that there is ceaseless activity, day and night. I realized that no one can discover everything God is doing under the sun. Not even the wisest people discover everything, no matter what they claim. This too I carefully explored. Even though the actions of godly and wise people are in God's hands, no one knows whether God will show them favor. The same destiny ultimately awaits everyone, whether righteous or wicked, good or bad, ceremonially clean or unclean, religious or irreligious. Good people receive the same treatment as sinners, and people who make promises to God are treated like people who don't. It seems so tragic that everyone under the sun suffers the same fate. That is why people are not more careful to be good. Instead, they choose their own mad course, for they have no hope. There is nothing ahead but death anyway. There is hope only for the living. As they say, it's better to be a live dog than a dead lion. The living at least know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, nor are they remembered. Whatever they did in their lifetime, loving, hating, envying, is all long gone. They no longer play a part in anything here on earth. So go ahead, eat your food with joy, and drink your wine with a happy heart, for God approves of this. Wear fine clothes with a splash of cologne. Live happily with the woman you love through all the meaningless days of life that God has given you under the sun. The wife God gives you is your reward for all your earthly toil. Whatever you do, do well, for when you go to the grave, there will be no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom. I have observed something else under the sun. The fastest runner doesn't always win the race, and the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. The wise sometimes go hungry, and the skillful are not necessarily wealthy, and those who are educated don't always lead successful lives. It is all decided by chance, by being in the right place at the right time. People can never predict when hard times might come. Like fish in a net or birds in a trap, people are caught by sudden tragedy. Here is another bit of wisdom that has impressed me as I have watched the way our world works. There was a small town with only a few people, and a great king came with his army and besieged it. A poor, wise man knew how to save the town, and so it was rescued. But afterward, no one thought to thank him. So even though wisdom is better than strength, those who are wise will be despised if they are poor. What they say will not be appreciated for long. Better to hear the quiet words of a wise person than the shouts of a foolish king. Better to have wisdom than weapons of war, but one sinner can destroy much that is good. As dead flies cause even a bottle of perfume to stink, so a little foolishness spoils great wisdom and honor. A wise person chooses the right road. A fool takes the wrong one. You can identify fools just by the way they walk down the street. If your boss is angry at you, don't quit. A quiet spirit can overcome even great mistakes. There is another evil I have seen under the sun. Kings and rulers make a grave mistake when they give great authority to foolish people and low positions to people of proven worth. I have even seen servants riding horseback like princes, and princes walking like servants. When you dig a well, you might fall in. When you demolish an old wall, you could be bitten by a snake. When you work in a quarry, stones might fall and crush you. When you chop wood, there is danger with each stroke of your axe. Using a dull axe requires great strength, so sharpen the blade. That's the value of wisdom. It helps you succeed. If a snake bites before you charm it, what's the use of being a snake charmer? Wise words bring approval, but fools are destroyed by their own words. Fools base their thoughts on foolish assumptions, so their conclusions will be wicked madness. They chatter on and on. No one really knows what is going to happen. No one can predict the future. Fools are so exhausted by a little work that they can't even find their way home. What sorrow for the land ruled by a servant, the land whose leaders feast in the morning. Happy is the land whose king is a noble leader, and whose leaders feast at the proper time to gain strength for their work, not to get drunk. Laziness leads to a sagging roof. Idleness leads to a leaky house. A party gives laughter, wine gives happiness, and money gives everything. Never make light of the king, even in your thoughts. And don't make fun of the powerful, even in your own bedroom. For a little bird might deliver your message and tell them what you said. Send your grain across the seas, and in time, profits will flow back to you. But divide your investments among many places, for you do not know what risks might lie ahead. When clouds are heavy, the rains come down. Whether a tree falls north or south, it stays where it falls. Farmers who wait for perfect weather never plant. If they watch every cloud, they never harvest. Just as you cannot understand the path of the wind or the mystery of a tiny baby growing in its mother's womb, so you cannot understand the activity of God, who does all things. Plant your seed in the morning and keep busy all afternoon, for you don't know if profit will come from one activity or another, or maybe both. Light is sweet. How pleasant to see a new day dawning. When people live to be very old, let them rejoice in every day of life. But let them also remember, there will be many dark days. Everything still to come is meaningless. Young people, it's wonderful to be young. Enjoy every minute of it. Do everything you want to do. Take it all in. But remember that you must give an account to God for everything you do. So refuse to worry and keep your body healthy. But remember that youth, with a whole life before you, is meaningless. Don't let the excitement of youth cause you to forget your Creator. Honor Him in your youth before you grow old and say, life is not pleasant anymore. Remember Him before the light of the sun, moon, and stars is dim to your old eyes, and rain clouds continually darken your sky. Remember Him before your legs, the guards of your house, start to tremble, and before your shoulders, the strong men stoop. Remember Him before your teeth, your few remaining servants, stop grinding, and before your eyes, the women looking through the windows see dimly. Remember Him before the door to life's opportunities is closed and the sound of work fades. Now you rise at the first chirping of the birds, but then all their sounds will grow faint. Remember Him before you become fearful of falling and worry about danger in the streets, before your hair turns white like an almond tree in bloom, and you drag along without energy like a dying grasshopper, and the caperberry no longer inspires sexual desire. Remember Him before you near the grave, your everlasting home, when the mourners will weep at your funeral. Yes, remember your Creator now while you are young, before the silver cord of life snaps and the golden bowl is broken. Don't wait until the water jar is smashed at the spring and the pulley is broken at the well, for then the dust will return to the earth and the spirit will return to God who gave it. Everything is meaningless,
says the teacher.
completely meaningless.
Keep this in mind. The teacher was considered wise, and he taught the people everything he knew. He listened carefully to many proverbs, studying and classifying them. The teacher sought to find just the right words to express truths clearly.
The words of the wise are like cattle prods, painful but helpful. Their collected sayings are like a nail-studded stick with which a shepherd drives the sheep. But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless, and much study wears you out. That's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. Fear God and obey His commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad.
All right. All praises once again to the Most High. Happy to end on a higher note and not be sucked into the wickedness of, that first video. But these things have to be put out and discussed. That's why we do it. But at the same time, it's a joy to see Ecclesiastes and have it narrated and illustrated in that manner. So all praises to the Most High. I hope that uplifts the spirits for this new moon and not leave us in anger. I'll leave you there. Go ahead, Aki.
Kana, I think, all praises to the Most High that His children are waking up, and we've got righteous music to listen to.
Yes.
We've got righteous elders to fellowship with and break bread with. We've got brothers in the walk with us that, we can call.
Yeah.
And now we have these visual videos of with scripture. You know what I mean? That this could be, this is definitely work. These brothers, whoever put this together, did a wonderful job, and yeah, it's gonna be big because people are gonna see it and are gonna associate. Wow, these people look like me.
God, all praise to the Lord. Yeah, yes, indeed. Magnificent stuff, magnificent work. Shout out to those brothers for doing that magnificent work. All praises to the Most High, first and foremost in all things. And we're so thankful, so grateful for another new month, third month on the Hebrew calendar. And as we progress through this month and prepare for uh, Shavuos, which is coming up the next set apart day, and the coming together of Mishpachah, breaking bread, shaking hands, and enjoying life, like King Shlomo said. I'll praise it. All right, we'll go ahead and close it on out. It's been a great celebration so far. Ironically, we close it out. Well, first thing, we do this for a specific purpose. Romans chapter 10 and verse 1, brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to our Abba, the Father, for Israel is that they might be saved. We want to see our people saved, set free, and restored back to prominence as the Most High have promised us. How are we going to do it? How is it going to come to pass? First of all, we're going to keep the faith, the belief in Hamashiach, the Messiah, to come back and redeem us from the hand of those who hate us and gather us from all the four quarters of the earth where we have been scattered and return us to prominence. We also, Ecclesiastes, what we just read, what we just saw, chapter number 12 and verse number 13, led us to the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. It is so very important for us to understand that in the conclusion of the whole matter, we are to fear the Most High and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. At the end of the day, when it is all said and done, all the dust is settled and all the smoke is cleared, we will be judged, or rather, we have feared the Most High and kept his commandments. Why? Because this is the whole duty of man. I am your Akazaki Yahoo, joined by my most esteemed Akinanaya on this new moon celebration. We giving all praises, honor, and great esteem unto the Most High Power, Yahweh, Bashem, Hamashiach, Wamalak, Yahweh Shai, and to the 12 tribes of Israel who were scattered throughout the four quarters of the earth. I say shalom, wa baruchim, that is peace and blessings. And I cannot wait to the day when the Most High brings us back together and we are once again 12 tribes, one family, one nation, back in our own land with a heart of flesh and no more a heart of stone, with our enemies, our adversaries, and all those who hate us under our feet. Until that day come, shalom, Mishpachah, or shalom, family.
Shalom, shalom, Mishpachah.
All praises to the Most High. Praise you, Abba Yah. Kwam Yasha'Allah.
Kwam Yasha'Allah.
And Barak Hashem Yahweh.